Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Outstanding Achievement in the Field of Excellence. I'm your host, James Smith, and today I'm going to be drawing Cerebus. Um, this month is actually a Cerebus Appreciation Month. We're discussing everything and anything involving Dave Sim, be it the aardvark, his influence by Barry Windsor Smith, basically the controversy, anything that goes. Like, as long as you have an opinion, feel free to share it. Like, we're basically all about freedom of speech here. Just don't get into arguments and be respectful of everybody's opinions. Which I guarantee, like somebody has an opinion, good or bad, about Dave Sim. Personally, I'm a very big fan of Dave and his work. Like I can laugh at the early ones were funnier thing, but I enjoyed the series as it went along. Even the controversial like last few chapters of the book, I happen to think was some of his best work. I don't agree with his opinions. I think his opinions are controversial for a reason, but I think he put up the best argument you can possibly make for the beliefs he happens to have. Anyways, he told the story so well that I can totally respect that. It's just like Steve Ditko. If you've read his work in the last few years, which I've read a few of them, they're very opinionated and very to the right, but there's no arguing. He simplified his opinions and put them on paper and shared them with the world, and he did a good job of doing it for good or ill. But anyways, this is about Dave. Um, I've had two strokes in the past year. Remember, he had the Kickstarter relaunch of Cerebus #1 recently, and one of the prizes or one of the levels, he did offer a sketchbook. So what I did was, instead of going to conventions and stuff like he suggested, I actually sent him a full description of what has happened to me with the strokes and everything in the past year. And I actually sent it to Dave, explaining that I went through the first stroke. I basically recovered after a long time of losing my drawing hand and really working hard to recover from that. I'd been like driving for a couple of weeks when I had a second stroke, which put me back at square one. Fortunately, it didn't affect my drawing hand, and I didn't have to start that over. But as of today, I'm still pretty limited on the other side, on the left hand side. So yeah, that's all there is to that. But basically, I filled this sketchbook with new drawings of Cerebus that I had done, and I sent it to him pretty soon. I'd say within 2 weeks of the sketchbooks going out. So he wrote me back with a postcard saying that he wishes me well, and he put an inspirational Winston Churchill quote, and I have that hanging above my bed, and that was really awesome. I mean, I was blown away just by that. So I wrote him back, like telling him about my friend Rich's channel and how he had promoted Cerebus, and I actually wrote with his address, and lo and behold, he actually wrote to my friend, like thanking him for his promotion, and he has something like 20,000 followers, something like that, which is pretty good, pretty awesome. So check his channel out. I'll put that in the links below if you're curious. Um, anyways, I thought that was the end of it. But a couple of weeks later, or a couple of months later, actually, I had received another package from Aardvark Vanaheim. So I opened it up, and lo and behold, it was another sketchbook, but this one actually had Dave painting of an original cover on the piece of Cerebus, which I think I've shared before. So I know I've shared before, so you may have seen it before, and I'll be sure to share it in Cerebus month with this video probably attached to it. So he really didn't have to go to those lengths, and I really appreciate that. That's really an amazing work. I think, in fact, it's some of the best work he's done in his career, before or after the hand injury, with or without Gerhard. No offense to Gerhard, but I just happen to like this one really, really much. So, as thank you, I'm going to do another piece featuring Cerebus. I've actually never written Dave back thanking him for the art piece, so I should work on that this month too. Maybe that'll make a future video. Here we go. I had done a quick layout for this piece in like an olive green color, because I believe the blue here is overwhelming that. It's not going to matter in the end. At least not much. Let's put some ears here. This is supposed to be a hair, not the helmet. All right. We'll go a little darker on the vest here. I think you can see that, right? I moved the camera up a little higher, and so I don't move it with my pencil anymore. So it'll reduce on the shaking and the incidental bumping of the camera. Sorry about that. It was kind of unprofessional to have those as videos, but you got to start somewhere. You got to learn from your mistakes. And I think that's worked pretty well. And that's good advice in life. Okay. Okay, we're done with that color. Let's move on to something a little more on the red side for contrast. Sorry, that sound you hear is me going through my drawer of pencils. I have 3 drawers. I separate them by Roy G. Biv. That the first drawer is ROY, and then the next one is GBIV, and then the last drawer is like blacks and whites. I find it's pretty helpful to do that, especially when you're just trying to go fast on camera. Otherwise, I'd probably just live in chaos. So how's your weekend going? I actually spent my weekend in the ER yesterday. I had a weird thing when I woke in the middle of the night, and my foot was kind of being weird. Like my foot was a bit injured. Like I had like a bruise on the upper arch of my foot. So just to be cautious, I'm being overly cautious because of my medical history. We went to the ER. So we waited to be seen in the ER for about 2 hours, which was, kind of crazy, but they were super busy. There wasn't a lot of people there as clients or whatever you call them, or patients, but there weren't enough actual medical staff, and the conditions they had to deal with involved multiple things. They basically got to us as fast as possible. There was a guy who lost his shit and then started using the F word on the nurses and stuff, which, is not cool and all, but you can understand he loves his daughter, and his daughter, I believe, has autism, and she was freaking out. So, shout out to that guy wherever he is. I feel bad for him. I think we'd all react, in the same way as this man reacted if it push came to shove, really. You should always be understanding of people that make a scene. Not everyone's a Karen. Is that an offensive term? Being called a Karen? If so, I'm sorry. Okay. And now we need something a little more like what you'd expect from Cerebus, like a grayish color. So we'll see what I have here. Okay, I have neutral gray. That's kind of, I think, what we want. We don't want to go too crazy. There we go. Blend that a little with the pink. So, anyways, I got an X-ray done and what is that called? They did an ultrasound on my entire leg to see what the problem was, and they said I have a clean bill of health. I'm totally fine. I did find it odd that the girl that looked at it did say they found metal pieces, like microscopic metal, in my leg, and not to worry about it. Well, I'm kind of worried about that. Where did that come from? Even microscopic, nobody wants that, right? But I just wanted to get out of there, so here I am. And also, on Friday, I went to the comic store for the first time since like mid-June or so. With my handicap, it's been so difficult. But I asked my family to go out of the way and let me check out a comic store for a few minutes, just to get the experience. And there's a bit of anxiousness that goes with being away for so long, and how things are going to go when you are on your own. But I think I did fairly well. I wasn't able to reach the bottom shelves and see what places had, or what the place had. But what I did get was Essential Captain America #5, Essential X-Men, I think Volume 6, maybe 7. And I got Thor Masterworks #1, which I really want to check out. I'm currently doing a Fantastic Four reread with the group, and I really want to see what else those two did. I've read little pieces as a young man, but I think I came to it with the same prejudices as a lot of us did, and I'd like to basically judge it for myself. I'm really enjoying the Fantastic Four stuff, and I'm hoping that I'll enjoy this as well. Okay, now let's go back to a bit of blue. I don't think I went over far enough. Okay, here we go. Well, yeah, I started reading Cerebus from reading Spawn. I had read somewhere Dave saying that he thinks that 0 people came from the experience of Spawn, but I'm one of them. I was in high school, or just about to be in high school when that came out, and I actually came to find at an antique store some issues of Cerebus. It was during Jaka's story and the end of Church and State, and it was incomplete, but I had a lot of Jaka's story, and I would read the letters pages, and I found them like fascinating to see what people craziness had to say. And I would bring them to school and share them with my friends, and they'd all laugh pretty hard. One of them, which I can't seem to find, began with somebody saying, "Jesus H fucking tap dancing Christ," and that just captured my fancy. So that's quite a play on words, and I really enjoyed that, but I have no idea what issue that was from. Well, if you know, just let us know in the comments if you're that big of a Cerebus fan. But anyways, in high school, I've done a paper on who is your hero, and I chose Dave Sim. I was just a total like Dave Sim mark. I went on and on about him. I don't think I had the maturity to really understand Cerebus at the time, but what I read, I must have really thought something of. So nobody had heard of him at my school except through me because of bringing the issues to school. And I actually shared them with everybody, like jocks and nerds. Like everybody seemed to enjoy what they saw. But I remember my one friend, Mike Evanek, shout out wherever you're at, Mike. He somehow didn't like the character. I was very honest about that, which was so cool. And that's really something that's really fair in this group. You can basically have differing opinions. Like you may have only read a little bit, or maybe not read anything at all, and you really want to. So I really encourage this as your time to shine. If you've never tried Cerebus before, this might be a good jumping on point. One of our members is Margaret Liss, who runs cerebusfangirl.com, which I'll link to below. And she might advise you, if she's not busy, like, don't bother her. But she might be able to tell you a good place to start if you've been thinking about trying it out. I want to start at the beginning, but I didn't start at the beginning. I actually started on those random issues of Jaka Story and Church and State, and eventually I worked my way backwards. I bought my phone books like one at a time at Golden Eagle Comics. I remember buying them, and they refused to get new ones because they had sat on their shelf for so long. Well, that was under Lem Fosnot's regime, but Lem has unfortunately passed away since then. Lem was a great guy, but I don't really go to the store anymore. It's equally distanced to the store I do go to, but to be honest, I really find his son running the store a little lacking in what I want from a comic store. He lacks the experience that his father had, who was sometimes a bit uptight, but he always was fairly reasonable. I'm sure to work for him might be a little different. You'd have to ask somebody like Alex, my friend Alex Samotis. He's a Greek fella who lives in Reading, Pennsylvania, right alongside Jim Steranko. But as far as I know, he's never met Jim Steranko. But that could make a good question. So, Alex, did you ever meet Jim Steranko? But I went to that store even as a kid. I think I met Alex before I really knew who he was. I bought an Art Adams poster that said Mutants on across the top and had like Polaris, or no, not Polaris, I'm sorry, Psylocke on it, Colossus, Wolverine. I think, if I'm remembering it correctly, I think it had Cyclops on it too. I can't quite remember. I just remember I had that poster on my wall for years. But then I'd say a couple years later, I started going to the other Golden Eagle comics, and Alex had moved from there, from the other store to this one, and we became fast friends. And he, I like to think as I like to think of it as a bit of a joke that I basically have learned some pro wrestling moves in both the Golden Eagle comics and Comics and Paperbacks Plus. I don't know what it is about comic books and learning pro wrestling, but I learned quite a bit there. I learned an armbar from Alex, and I learned how to lock up at the other store from another pro wrestler whose name I can't remember at this point. I have no idea whatever happened to that guy. I hope he's doing good. But yeah, it's kind of weird. Where else do you learn pro wrestling moves in a business? It's not exactly a part of the business. Okay, now I'm going to wipe off my brush a bit. There was a lot of red there, and I'm moving on to these pinks. This is a small brush. It's having various effects that I like and dislike. For one thing, it slows me down. For another thing, I probably should slow down. Basically, make my choices less spontaneous. Yeah, we used to have fun at Golden Eagle. Me, John Duffy, and Alex Sabotis. We really had a great time. We all got along pretty well. I think that that John Duffy was listening to Nick Cave. So I was like, I don't know what this is, but I like it. What is this? And he told me about Nick Cave and informed me that I should give it a shot. So I went to the mall and I actually bought um first it was I remember it was a cassette tape. It had on one side Kicking Against the Pricks, and then on the other side, yeah, it had Murder Ballads, which was a great place to start out. Those two albums, I came to like No More Shall We Part. That was my favorite album for the longest time. But that was a good place to start, and then thanks to John Duffy for providing that tape. He also provided me a tape of celebrities at their worst, and that was pretty awesome too. It was like people like Dick Clark, like yelling at the people he's working with, and William Shatner and John Wayne drunk giving a speech at a school. It was just really crazy, fun stuff that would circulate to like college radio campuses and stuff. I believe his brother gave it to him. Yeah, but shout out to that guy. He was pretty cool too. All right. I think I'm ready to ink this. I think there's a lot of white space, but I'm pretty sure I can get away with inking this now. So I'll grab a crow quill and some ink here. And here we go. Oh yeah, I believe Margaret is also a mod over at the Cerebus Facebook group. So go over there and check that out as well as long as you're at it. It's always a fun place, and you always see like new stuff. You would be surprised how much awesome stuff that you've never seen before to a finite series. But there is always something I've either never seen before or also I've forgotten it. But yeah, she's a great gal, and check out her group. Having a bit of in-game trouble here. There we go. Oh, I haven't really told you what books. I told you some books, but I went to all these and I got more books besides the Marvel Essentials. I got some DC archives of Superman volumes 3 and 5, I think. I got those, and I also got Batman Black and White, edited by Mark Chiarello. I usually don't mention a an editor, but besides Archie Goodwin, what other editor really matters that much? Sure, like Stan the Man back in the '70s, but for the most part, nobody's buying them because he's the editor. But Mark was one of a kind, or he still is. He just isn't at the company anymore at DC Comics. Um, Yeah, check out Tano's channel as well. Another link I can put at the bottom here. But he actually interviewed him as well. And he had a lot of interesting questions. He's actually one of my favorite interviewers as far as channels go. He's not super popular yet, but I would get on that gravy train while you still can. But yeah, he had Chiarello on it, and he has no ill will, at least he outwardly, towards DC letting it go, which is a good thing. I would prefer if somebody with an actual artistic vision had stayed at DC. But what are you gonna do? Time marches on, I guess. I also got the Scotty Young editions of Oz, written by Eric Schenauer, I think. I think he is Scotty is one of the coolest looking artists that's still around. He's not exactly a new artist, but he's a great artist. He's one of the few people that makes me stop and look at his stuff when I go to a comic store, which obviously isn't very much. Here, I'll move this up here since I'm working on the feet. But they were like pretty cheap, like $7.99 for hardcovers. I got 2 of those. And the last thing I got was actually a complete edition of the New Yorker covers, or the artwork of the cartoons, which when I saw it for like $20, I was like blown away. I'd rather have that than just about anything else. I love looking at the old guys like Charles Adams, and I like Otto Soglo or Soglo. Just great stuff out there, and I'd say their heyday is long gone, and their cartoons aren't for everyone anymore. But you can actually look at those ones and still enjoy them. Whoop, I actually messed up the ink on the ears here. Nah, it's okay. I think that I'm going to give this away to somebody at random in the group. The only rule is you have to be a member. So I probably shouldn't mess this up too much.